Week 2 of the 2021 college football season is now over. And as we head into week 3, I'll be giving you guys my updated rankings for this week in college football. And week 2 heading into it didn't really look like it's going to be much of a active week in college football. I mean, we only had a couple of major ranked versus ranked matchups in week 2, but it was exactly the opposite of that. I mean, we saw so many upsets, and really this was a very season altering week for a lot of teams. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started with this, and we'll be starting off with 1 through 7. Top 3 remain the same after last week. And if you guys are new to the channel, these are not the AP poll rankings or the coaches poll rankings. These are my personal rankings, so that's the reason why they look a little bit different from, say, the AP polls. So that being said, top 3 though are the same from last week. Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma all beat their opponents by significant amounts. I mean, especially Oklahoma completely destroyed Western Carolina 76-0. They just ramped up the score in that matchup. We saw Georgia over UAB 56-7, and Alabama over Mercer 48-14. Number 4, I've got Clemson. Clemson, I believe, is number 6 in the AP poll. But Clemson is obviously still a very talented football team, and they beat South Carolina State 49-3 this past weekend. So I do have Clemson actually moving up in the rankings to number 4 after last week, which of course in the AP poll they're actually number 6. But the thing is here, I mean, even though Clemson has got one loss against a very good Georgia football team, by the way, I still think Clemson is definitely a top 4 team right now. But Oregon and Iowa, they are not far behind. I mean, those 3 from 4 to 6 could easily be arranged. I mean, Iowa could be the number 4 team in the nation just as much as they could be the number 6 team right now. Oregon beat Ohio State on the road. That was an outstanding win. I mean, to win in the Horseshoe, I mean, on the road in a very tough environment. Very impressive win out of Oregon. 35-28 was the final score there. I mean, Ducks led it for the majority of the game too. Very impressive win there for Oregon. Iowa beat Iowa State on the road 27-17. Very impressive win as well by Iowa. That defense is looking like for real. Offensively, Hawkeyes do have a couple of question marks, but they're starting to play. I mean, they're getting better for sure. And Iowa's defense is definitely what's the big standout on that football team. So you got Iowa, who moved up 7 positions after last week. Oregon moved up 10. So yeah, Oregon moved up from 15 to 5 over this past weekend. So yeah, several big games here in week 3 of this 2021 season. Cincinnati beat Murray State 42-7 this past weekend. They're also 2-0. They're going to stick around at number 7. Moving on to 8 through 14, lots of adjustments in here. Florida is number 8. They're moving up 2 positions after the win against South Florida. 42-20 was the final score there. Texas A&M, this is a very interesting team here because Texas A&M, of course, has just been a pretty sloppy team. I'm going to be honest so far. I mean, if you look at this offense, the quarterback situation with Haynes King and Zach Calzada has been very troubling so far. And really, I mean, this team just does not have a very extremely talented quarterback. I mean, both King and Calzada are very talented, but we just have not seen a huge standout performance out of these quarterbacks so far. So Texas A&M, especially after a close loss or a close win against Colorado, they're going to move down 3 positions to number 9 after this past weekend. Ohio State moves down to number 10. I'm still going to keep them in the top 10. Of course, they did lose against Oregon, but I still think Ohio State is still. I mean, C.J. Stroud. I mean, his performance speaks for itself. I mean, he put up nearly 500 yards of passing this past week. So Ohio State, I still think is a very talented team, and I'm going to keep them in the top 10. Penn State beat Ball State 44-13, and they're going to stay in the same position at number 11. But if they can beat Auburn, I mean, yeah, you best believe they'll be in the top 10 for week 4. Notre Dame moves down 4 positions after their win against Toledo, 32-29. Not a very impressive win at all. I mean, it was very sloppy, I'll be honest with you. I mean, Toledo is not a very good football team, and Notre Dame made it look like it was a very tough matchup. So I think Notre Dame is still, once again, I mean, I really think Jack Cohn is going to lead that team to a great season, but Notre Dame for now, I'm going to put them at number 12, and we'll see how they do in the next couple of weeks, and I'll move them from there. UCLA moves up 7 in their bye week to number 13, and that just shows how many upsets we saw in week 2. I mean, for a team to move up 7 positions like that on a bye week is pretty rare. So, I mean, UCLA is also a very talented team. We saw them in their first 2 games completely dominate their opponents. So, UCLA is definitely a team to watch out for. Iowa State is number 14 after their loss against Iowa, but they're only moving down 5 positions to number 14, so I've still got them in the top 15 for now. Moving on to 15 through 21, Ole Miss enters the rankings at number 15 this week against Austin Peay. Of course, they beat them 54-17. I actually did not have them in my rankings last week. Main reason for that is because I actually released my rankings last Monday before the Monday night game that Ole Miss had against Louisville. So I would have put Ole Miss in my rankings if I would have seen them beat Louisville before I released my rankings. But Ole Miss is, coming in at number 15 is definitely reasonable for that football team. Wisconsin beat Eastern Michigan 34-7. They're moving up 2 positions to number 16. Auburn enters the rankings at number 17 this week after their shutout win against Alabama State. That is definitely a team to watch out for. They're playing very well right now. They've had 2 extremely dominant wins over the past 2 weeks. So I think Auburn is definitely deserving of a top 20 ranking. Virginia Tech beat Middle Tennessee State 35-14. They're moving up 6 positions after last week. North Carolina beat Georgia State 59-17. They're moving down 3 though. Main reason for that is because I think the teams that are above them are more deserving of being in their positions than North Carolina is right now. North Carolina is still a one-loss team. But you may say Wisconsin's also a one-loss team, but Wisconsin's loss was a bit more justified than North Carolina's loss. Of course, North Carolina lost to Virginia Tech. Wisconsin lost to Penn State, which Penn State looks to be a better football team right now, so I'm going to keep them slightly higher. North Carolina is number 19 for now. They're definitely a very impressive and talented team right now. I think Sam Howell definitely still has got potential to lead the Tar Heels to one of the better seasons that we've seen out of North Carolina in the past few years. Arizona State, they beat UNLV 37-10. They're moving up to 20. Coastal Carolina moves down 2 positions after the win against Kansas. Kind of the same situation there with North Carolina for Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is a very talented football team, but I think Arizona State and Virginia Tech are better than Coastal Carolina right now. Moving on to 22 through 25, we got Michigan entering the rankings at 22, Arkansas entering at 23, and Michigan State entering in at 25. Miami is going to stay in the rankings, but they're going to move down several positions after last week's performance against Appalachian State. Miami has very much underperformed so far this college football season. Derek King, that football team should be easily top 15, top 10 right now, but they just have not performed to that level yet. So I'm going to keep them in my rankings in the top 25 here, but they're going to be number 24 for now. So I'm basically putting them on standby until they have a big performance. But yeah, Michigan looked very good against Washington. They're 2-0. Arkansas, wow. They beat Texas 40-21. Texas was looking like a very good football team after their win against Louisiana, but Texas completely just botched that game. I'm going to be honest. Arkansas looked very good, but Texas, wow, terrible performance. Michigan State beat Youngstown State 42-14. Which of course Youngstown State is a FCS team, but thing is here, Michigan State also absolutely destroyed Northwestern the week before, so you got to consider that win as well, and I think Michigan State is worthy of being number 25 right now. But let me tell you, the first 5 out, all the teams in the first 5 out are extremely close skill-wise to each other, it looks to be right now. BYU is number 26 at the first one out, USC slightly behind, Indiana's number 28, Oklahoma State 29. I don't get the hype behind Oklahoma State. In the coaches poll, I think they're ranked 22nd. Cowboys do not look very good right now, though, so I'm gonna keep them in the first 5 out for sure. And then Texas is number 30. Dropped out. We had 5 teams drop out of the rankings this past weekend. USC from 12. They were ranked 12th in my rankings this past week, but they're going to be moved out. Texas was 14. They're moving out. Utah was 22. They lost to BYU. LSU was 23. They played McNeese State, but they did not look very good in that matchup. I know McNeese State is a FCS team, and LSU seemed to have dominated them, but LSU is still a team with several question marks right now, and I haven't really seen a very impressive performance out of them yet. Indiana is dropping out after being at 25 this past week. So that being said, that's going to wrap it up for my rankings here today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on these rankings. And week 3, definitely a very interesting week. We got several major matchups. We got Alabama, Florida. We got Oklahoma, Nebraska. That's another one. Michigan State, Miami. So, we got a big week coming up here Yeah, also Penn State, Auburn. Can't forget about that. So week 3 is a big week. Several major matchups. So anyway, that being said, appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.